wonder how many people out there also not like feel like they don't like being a burden on other people, because what that means is if you're not asking for help, you're not looking after yourself because you're overdoing it.
Body has needs. It needs water. It needs sunshine, fresh air, movement, because that's how the body was designed to function.
You cannot afford to keep adding any more stresses to your body.
So okay, what do I hear right now? Okay, what am I smelling right now? What am I seeing? What am I feeling? What might touch? What can you touch that can kind of like bring you back into that moment? And then you can kind of ease into whatever emotion you're processing. So like healing graves holistically, there's not much out there at all. We're kind of in this unknown territory. So we're inviting you guys into our personal journey. We may not know all the answers, but guess what? We're going to try to figure it out as much as we can.
My name is Meron and I'm based in the UK and I'm the founder of Loving Me Kindly.
And my name is Priscilla and I'm based in the United States and I am the founder of Healing Unapologetically.
Together we are co-hosting our podcast, Thyroid Sisters Navigate Graves' Disease. Over the last few years, since being diagnosed with Graves' disease, we have fought to gain our lives back and are both living medication-free.
We are not medical experts. However, through our experience of dealing with this disease, we have learned so much and want to share our journey of healing and self-discovery.
We have come to realize that trusting our instincts and intuition has helped us lead healthier lives, and our goal with these podcasts is to empower and inspire you.
So welcome back to our podcast, or if you're new, welcome to our podcast. Today, Meron and I are going to be talking about our emotional profile. And basically, through a lot of chit chats that we've had, we've been kind of using that term a lot, right? Like, what's the emotional profile of a chronically ill or autoimmune patient? Because I think when you and I talk, we always kind of connect on these similarity, like that certain traits that we have. Maybe, right? Like I noticed Meron would be sharing something personal and I can completely relate, even though maybe my scenario or situation was different. The emotional aspect of how we were coping, I completely was like connecting with you. I said, oh my gosh, I felt similar. I had this reaction too. So today we just want to share a little bit of what type of emotional defenses we built that could possibly or most likely contributed to our autoimmune disease. So we're hoping by sharing this, you guys can have a little bit of an insight, maybe a certain behavior you might be doing that could be causing or worsening your chronic illness.
And while you're listening to this, if you'd like to pause the podcast and then write up quickly the 5 things that have contributed to, you think might have emotional things that might have contributed to your autoimmune disease, then write them down so that as we go along with this podcast, you can check your list and see if it's similar, and then we can get a movement going, because it'll be interesting to know that if most of us are having had the same emotional coping mechanisms. That'll be a really interesting
Yes. And I totally forgot to mention that, but we did. Meron wrote her 5 top emotional defense mechanisms, and then I wrote my top 5. We haven't shared them to each other yet, so we're going to reveal them here. And then you two, you pause and write your 5. I recommend to just go with the top of your head, like, right? Just kind of like, think scenarios where you felt like certain behavior that you would do constantly in your childhood, or just and you might even realize that you're still doing it now as an adult too.
Oh, definitely. So therein lies the problem, that you carried it on and that you didn't develop more healthier habits probably. So we'll see. This is going to be really interesting. But do you know what? Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm gonna save my first one for my last one. I'm not gonna say my first one, because I think at the bottom of it all, at the foundation, what I wrote for my first is like where it all comes down to. So I'm gonna save that for last.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, now I'm all like
I think
And
this is,
I also,
yeah.
go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say, I think I will be interested to see if other people, if you also can relate to that. We'll relate to it too. That'll be a very insightful. Let's see.
I feel like first what I wanted to say really quick is emotional defense mechanisms, or just defense mechanism in general, are very healthy and normal things that we develop to help us survive. So these are emotional, I don't want to say strategies, but what would you describe it? Just emotional defense mechanism to kind of protect you from experiences that are kind of out of your control, or at least this is where we're coming from, because we're going way back to our childhood. So this is kind of what helped us feel safe, or able to kind of survive situations where they were out of our control. So these, right?
Is that what your list is? Oh my goodness! Do you know what my list?
I mean,
this will be interesting.
What's
your list?
Well, I just want to say, like, that's where I'm coming from.
Oh, that's where you're coming from. I was right. I wrote up like the 5 things that it probably stemmed from, like, that didn't help me, the traits that didn't help me, and that's what I did. What did you do?
I just did like my literal like top 5 defense mechanism. But I love this because I think that the perspective that we're both bringing into it need to be spoken on, because I think that there are so many layers to childhood trauma that it's so good to have different perspectives on how 2 individuals kind of like go through it. It's not so much that there's just one way. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say, that it's all just healthy self-preservation that we're sharing, like ways that we help to persevere during times of hardship. But there's a time and place where these defense mechanisms served us, but we're at a point where they may not be serving us anymore, but hurting us. So that's where we're connecting the autoimmune link and the chronic link, and being just self-aware.
Yes.
I hope that made sense.
It just went exactly where you think it's helping you, but it could actually be hindering you, and later on you start developing symptoms because it stemmed from these coping mechanisms that you didn't realize you were doing, but you didn't know anything else.
I just wanted to interject here and clarify what we was talking about, because as we were recording this podcast, unfortunately there was a glitch. So what we are talking about now might not make sense without me explaining what we were just speaking to each other about before the glitch happened. So it didn't record that part. But basically, Priscilla and I were both sharing our first emotional profile that we thought that contributed to our autoimmune, in the sense that we believe that your emotional makeup can make you more susceptible to disease later on in life, and there are studies that show that. So basically we just wanted to see if we had any similarities. Priscilla's number 1 was that she never wanted to feel like she was a burden to anybody, and she explains that through telling us the story of her having a C-section and going into hospital, and rather than lie in hospital and allow the doctors and nurses to do what they do, she felt like she was a burden, so she would do things, move rather than rest, do things rather than ask for help. So that's what she's explaining as her number 1. And my number 1 was that although actually I'm not sharing my number 1, I share my number 1 later on at the very end, because I believe that my number 1 emotional profile that I used to do comes at the crux of all of these issues, and I think everything stems from this particular way of thinking, this belief system. So I share that later, but my number 2 basically that I shared is that I never used to prioritize my own needs. So that's just a little bit of the context that got lost in the void as this glitch happened. So you can just continue on from here, and it will make much more sense.
I wonder how many people out there also feel like they don't like being a burden on other people, because what that means is if you're not asking for help, you're not looking after yourself because you're overdoing it. So it's not, again, it's like, is it the fact that we've got Graves' disease, hyperthyroid disorder, where everything is like excessively going, right? It's like ramped up, you're overdoing it, your body is overdoing it. It could be of Hashimoto, hypothyroidism.
Oh yeah.
But you're not looking after yourself if you're doing that. I mean, that's what the doctors are there for, is to help you.
Exactly. And it just goes to show you the chronic aspect of it, because I just gave the example of my C-section, but like that's a perfect example where that's a normal condition to ask, to be asking for help under, you know what I mean? Like you just had surgery. There's people there that are there to help you. But it's this inner voice that doesn't let you. You're just like, but it's all autopilot too, because I could see it now, but in that moment, I'm telling you, I was like hyped up on dopamine. I was just like survivor mode, C-section. I was just like going to this automatic, and automatic mode, I guess. I don't know.
The autopilot should be asking for help. I don't know, because it's an unknown for you. It's like unknown territory.
Yeah, I know. That kind of highlighted to me like how bad it was, because I did get a like maybe after a week from being home, I did develop what's it called? I don't know if I'm saying it right. A sarcoma. It's just like fluid buildup from my C-section, and then so I had to go, but the doctor was like, "That's not bad. It's okay." But I was like leaking from my cut, and because I was just doing too much, from recuperating from it. So it just goes to show you too how it can it's just not good to be that. I mean, it's fine to a certain extent, but not to the point where it could potentially be causing you more harm. You know what I mean? Like where you're
No, because if you saw, like, I'm sure your husband was probably thinking, I'm here, I can help you. I'm sure, let's say your husband was not giving birth or anything like that, but let's say he was in hospital and he was overdoing it, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm here.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Yeah. Oh, I'm here to help you. What do you need? And just, you would want him to like relax, look after himself, because you care about him so much. You wouldn't want him to overdo it or anything like that. Or even a friend, someone you love, a mom, anybody. If you saw them do that, you'd be like, what are you doing? Right?
Yeah.
But when it's yourself, it's like, it's okay, it's just me.
You don't give yourself that same care or consideration. And in fact, I kind of feel like because I don't like to feel like a burden with to people, and also the fact of fear speaking up, they kind of coincide, because if I don't rely on people, then I don't have to speak up. And it's another form of staying in my little shell. So it's just like, oh, if I just become really self-sufficient, then I don't even have to speak and ask, and so it goes to show you how on their own they could be good traits, but when you're using it to kind of like hide and be this like go in your little shell, it can be really bad, destructive. But
because the doctors would know that, oh, if you overdo this is going to affect you in this way and that way, because like I said, you don't know what you're doing to your body. They know that you need that medication, because they know what's happening on I don't know, on a cellular level. Like they know what's happening to your body. You don't know. So you could be doing so much more damage to yourself. So you're not really being self-sufficient and helping yourself. It's almost like you're sabotaging yourself without realizing it, in a way, because
for sure.
Because even me, it's the same thing. I'm sabotaging myself. And I don't want to do that. And that was one of why I was, I think, in sadness that time with the emotional detox after my therapy session, because she was like, yeah, you're actually hurting yourself, you sabotage yourself a lot. And I was thinking, but I'm trying to, like, my whole brand is loving me kindly. I'm trying to be kind and good to myself, and I'm trying to help myself. The last thing I want to do is hurt myself. But if you don't realize the patterns that you're doing, that's what I've been doing. You know, it was a shock to my system. I'm hurting
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
It really
Well,
got
we
me.
don't, I feel like that's why I'm so glad that we're talking about this subject, because I think that you don't, it's a self-reflection, right? That you have to kind of
Yeah.
commit to. And at the same time, a lot of these things make you feel comfortable because they make you feel safe. So it's very hard to look at something that makes you feel safe as potentially hurting yourself. Like I would never
Right.
describe that. Like, oh, doing this behavior is hurting myself.
Yeah.
It's just, it's helping me, but it helped me maybe once in a different scenario where it was okay, but maybe now it's not. So it's just becoming self-aware. So it's not holding you back, because a lot of these emotional defense mechanisms can hold you back from your health journey, from relationships, from a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff. Maybe
Oh
we
yeah.
tell ourselves, it's almost like being in denial a little bit, because you're telling yourself, oh, I'm helping myself because it's like keeping yourself safe. But really, that's why a therapist or somebody else from the outside will look into it and see the facts and be like, no, this behavior is actually detrimental to you. Whereas we're no, oh, I would never do that. I would never hurt myself. This is just to keep myself safe, and this is the right thing for me. You know, they could see the patterns. You can't see the patterns when you're in it. So naming it is a release. To be honest, you released me, because now I'm more aware of things that I'm doing. Is this actually hurting me? You know, then I need to, because if you see it for the fact that it is, then you're going to work harder to change that. But if you're telling yourself a softer story, then you're not going to be inclined to change it. It's better to just rip the Band-Aid off, you know?
Yeah. And
And
talking about it too. It's just, that helps a lot too.
oh yeah, talk about it too. Yeah. Hence what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because then that's using your thyroid.
Your voice. And it's good practice too. Like when you have this fear of speaking up or sharing, it's good to have a friend, like, like what we have, or someone that you can trust, a therapist, that you get a safe space where you can start vocalizing, just talking. You'd be surprised what would come out sometimes. Like you're like, oh wow, I didn't even know I felt like that.
Exactly.
But
so it's like self-healing then. So you're changing the narrative from being self-sabotaging or whatever to self-healing. Even if you have someone there was a time after one of my therapies that it was so heavy, I didn't even feel like speaking to somebody about it. I just didn't know what to do. I think I told you in a voice note, and I put up a camera, I put my phone on and just did a personal video to myself. That was the only thing that I thought I could do. I've never done that before, but I found it was really good to just word it, like just to get it off my chest and speak to no one.
Yeah.
That really helped me. So if that helps you, if you don't want to tell somebody, you don't want to speak to anyone, then create a lovely space, safe space for yourself. Put candles, do whatever you want, essential oils, put the video on and just talk to yourself. If you want to record that could be a way.
Oh, for sure. I when you sent me that video, I was like, oh my gosh, I actually remember doing that. And that goes with another one on my list, is suppressing my emotions. So I don't know if you want to share. Did you share your number 2? Or sorry,
I know I said I never prioritize my needs or voice it. And then what was the one you just said?
I said I don't like to feel like a burden. I think that I piggybacked off of you because of that.
Oh,
I feel like
yeah.
they're similar.
I know I had that. Do you know what? I think I took it off and changed it to something else. I had suppressed my emotions.
Oh yeah.
Oh. Well, what I had, I'll say how I worded it. I said, had high levels of guilt, so I kept trying to please others. My needs don't matter. So the only time I got attention, I felt that I had like some kind attention, was when I got sick, and then I'd have soup given or something like that. So that wasn't good in a way, because then you can use that when you have a chronic illness to think, oh, just when I keep getting attention, people will be kinder to you. And if you're sick, you'll never fight to get better. You'll stay in that health state. And I think I did do that. In all honesty, I feel like I did that for like a year or two. And then it was that honest conversation with myself to be like, Erin, you're not doing something right here. Yes, you're getting people aren't, giving you grief because you might feel sorry for you and stuff, but you're not helping yourself at all. So it's time to break out of that.
Well, honestly, honestly, that's like one of the most honest things I've heard someone say, because it is 1000% true. When you are deprived of attention, you always hear good attention is attention. Like, that's why kids either act out, or like, attention is something that children need. So when you're coming from a place where you're hardly getting any, if acting out isn't getting you the attention you need, being sick is definitely one that occurs. And I actually remember too, I always felt like I did get more attention when I was sick, but I would never get sick. And I remember thinking,
same, but I would never get sick. Exactly.
Yeah. And I felt like something like annoyed, because I thought like I wanted that attention. I wanted that attention that you would get when you're not feeling well, and you get that extra attention. And but I never would get sick because I was an outdoor baby. I was outdoors all the time, sun to skin, at the beach, loving life. I mean, and think about like how like as a child, it's so important to speak words of like health to your child, like, because I was so healthy. That was something to be so, so proud of. Like, I would never get sick. And I was just like, I wish I could get sick.
Careful what you wish for. Oh my goodness.
And
I would be sick for one day and I'll be better. I'll be like, oh, that's all I got is one day. Can you imagine?
But we're linking it to the getting our emotional needs filled. And for us, feeling sick gave, or at least for me too, but it sounds like that's what you're saying. Like, it was feeling our need of just being paid attention to a little bit more, it was filling that for us. It wasn't so much like we needed to be sick or feel sick. It was just needing a little bit of attention,
and
needing that.
Worked, so
that is so, so, so true. I think a lot of people can relate to that, Oh man.
So it's it could be that your parents or caregivers didn't give you like the attention maybe at your love language. Obviously you don't know that. Maybe your physical touch. Maybe you want hugs. Maybe you need those hugs, and those hugs make you feel safe and wanted and everything. Maybe they did everything else. Maybe they did acts of service as parents do.
Oh yeah.
You've got a roof over your head, you've got food, what more do you want? But maybe you need other stuff. So you could feel like you're lacking. It could be that. It could be dysfunction, straight up dysfunctional household. It could be that. You had none of your needs met at all. So you had to like self-soothe, be self-sufficient. So it could be different scenarios for you as a child, but it all boils down to maybe that you didn't A, speak up about it, and B, it's just you were just in an environment that you didn't get your needs met, and that will
or just needed that extra attention. You just needed that. You need, like you said, I think it is a little bit of you nailed it right off with all the possibilities can be. It could be that's not the right love language, or it was straight up neglect, or whatever it is. All of those are real sources, but kids, that's so like I'm just like running like scenarios. I definitely, when you were saying the love language, I definitely was like, yep, my parents are definitely like that. Like, you got a roof over your head. I was baby number 4. So I was like, 4 siblings. We were 4 of us. So, we're first generation, Mexican American, or I was, my parents were originally from Mexico. So the needs were just like our acts of service was definitely like the love language in our home. But yeah, it's interesting how attention is still needed and
Yeah, you know what? I feel
in your
so
love language.
yeah, it makes you think. So it makes me really sad because my situation was that I was I don't know if I've mentioned it a million times or not, but my mother so I was born in Ethiopia. My mother gave me up at 15 years old. She was 15 years old and I was only 2 when I came to this country to live with my family, like auntie and family and stuff. So I think a child that has been separated from their mother definitely needs that extra attention.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
Or if that is lacking, then that's a serious recipe. That's a recipe for disaster in a way. And growing up, like I know that my love language is words of affirmation. So words mean a lot to me. So if you grow up and you're not hearing, like nourishing words, then that can be
Mhm.
very detrimental to you. So depending,
Mhm.
and also, yeah. So the very thing that you need, if it's the opposite end of it, can be very hurtful. If that makes sense. So, for instance,
Mhm. Oh,
language
yeah.
you're getting abused, so that's the opposite,
Mhm.
right? If your thing is
Mhm.
affirmation, but it's negative words or things like that, then it can be even more detrimental because you're so receptive to that because that's
Mhm.
your love language. So, that's what you need to hear. So it makes me tear up. Oh my God. It makes me tear up. When I went to meet, well, I met my mother again after 24 years. So that was amazing. But then 8 years later, just this past Christmas, I spent time with them, and when I just think about it now, oh my goodness, it was words of affirmation on steroids. It was
Mm.
just I was filled with it from the moment I
Mm.
woke up to the moment I went to sleep. When I think about it now, so it was the complete opposite, and I just thought to myself, if only I had this, maybe
Mm.
things could have been different, like how much I needed that. And all the
Mhm.
time when I speak to my biological mother and thing, it's always the words, the words fill me
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
much. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's just a little, see, that's why these podcasts are so good.
Mm. It's just it's so raw. It's just really raw and real,
Mm,
and that's why I think we're both sharing because, um, we know there are so many other women who are also and men dealing with an autoimmune disease, and we are doing this work, and it's hard, like, I've heard your voice and I see you now, it's hard. But having these moments of rawness with yourself, it's gonna help you heal and get better, and it's gonna help you improve your life, relationships, everything. If you're having thyroid issues, autoimmune issues, it is healing, lowering your emotional stressors, and talking about it's so important because you might not realize the type of stress is adding to your heart, adding like the negative talk or whatever it is that it's affecting you on a daily base. When you can start talking and seeing it for what it is, you're going to be able to heal from it, or at least know like there's hurt there. Like just knowing that there's hurt there. Cause I
yeah,
know for me, like I had mentioned, I suppress my emotions. So a
yeah.
lot of times when I talk, I've realized, oh, I'm actually pretty bothered by this, and that. Like it's really crazy how
Yeah.
you can almost hide your own emotions from yourself.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
It's with the suppressing, definitely. That was
Oh,
definitely one of my tools because you don't prioritize your needs, so you don't voice it, of course. So you suppress everything. And then that means that you tolerate too much. You can tolerate
mhm,
negativity then. And then that's you overburdening your body, right? Because if
mhm. Oh, for sure.
you're not able to be like, no, 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 you don't get to talk to me like that, or this situation is not helping me, then you're actually
Mhm,
helping your body. You're not overburdening it. But if you're like suppressing things and building it up, and then if people do something that is not okay and you don't say that, then you're hurting
mhm.
yourself. You are hurting yourself on a
Oh,
cellular
yeah.
level without realizing it, and that builds over time, and then the body goes out of whack. Finished. It's not a
And
coherent body. If that makes sense. Is it coherent?
Yeah.
Word for it? Cohesive, coherent? I don't know, but it's
Yeah.
not flowing. There's no flow
Yes. There's no
because
flow.
you're not
And
even being honest with
another thing, you're absolutely right, because I felt like another thing I noticed when I wouldn't address something, like let's say some my feelings for her or something happened, I didn't address it. I would come home and I would feel way worse,
right.
and it would fester so much longer.
Right.
And
Exactly.
the problem would grow. Everything would grow. It would take up more mental space in my mind. It would make me more mad. It would take more days. It would just
Oh,
grow instead of just
exactly.
dealing with it, you know? So that's one thing I've actually learned to do a lot more now, because I realized that emotional defense mechanism was like causing more problems for me, because I think it's the festering, it's the lingering, it's it
Hit it on
was,
the nail on the head.
yeah.
Festering. I festered. I used to fester all the time. In fact, I don't think I ever festered in a positive. If I'm thinking about, unless I was outside playing, because I loved playing, I love being, running and all sorts and playing games. Unless I was doing that, if I wasn't doing that, I was festering on sadness. Always sad, dwelling in that. Can you imagine what we know now? Because we've done all the research, we're reading about our health
I
journey.
know.
We know how just even staying in that state for 1 minute is bad for you, let alone dwelling in it your entire childhood or young adulthood, whatever it is. No wonder our body, literally, the autoimmune happened when it screamed for help. It was literally
Oh
screaming
yeah.
for some kind of peace, some kind of resolution within yourself. It makes sense when you look back at the patterns, right?
Oh my gosh,
You're
yes.
so unaware of it.
I mean, even all of this stuff, like I'm telling you, I can still see myself doing this in adulthood. And since healing Graves, I've I've been working on these so much more, and I've been able to have healthier relationships with everybody, including not just myself, but the people around me, because you're more of your authentic self when you stop having to put up walls when they don't need to be there, or when you start saying what you really want to say, or when you start feeling what you really want to feel, when you start accepting people who want to help and talk, and all of that is just, there's a
So
place for
true.
it, and
Yeah. I thought it was so good to build walls. When you just said walls, it took me back. I was what, how old? Let me think. Like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Probably like, let's say 12 or 13. And I remember sitting in my room and mentally building walls, like spending the time. And I like building walls of Jericho and just in my mind, literally building the walls. I don't know how I was doing it, but I felt like I was doing it. And just
yes,
like so serious about it. I'm here and I'm building walls, and I'm proud of these walls.
yeah,
These walls will protect me. These are strong walls. And just spending my time doing that. Because yeah, it just goes back to just trying to feel safe. I mean, if you don't feel safe, your body doesn't feel safe. Again, you're adding to that whole narrative of it going out of whack and not attacking you, because almost not you're attacking it, but you haven't given it that space to feel safe for so long.
exactly.
And then you get this autoimmune where it's your body is attacking you from the inside. That's
And it
essentially what it
doesn't
is.
help, that these emotional defense mechanism, like, you may be in a scenario that you feel safe, but because you're in this habit, since you've learned a child to do have these walls, have these defense mechanism, you react like that to normal situations that are not threatening, um, that are not like as intense, but you react
You're
like it.
always intense.
Yeah, you apply your defense mechanism to something that doesn't need them, but that's how you're now like operating in life with anything that makes you feel like there's a threat for whatever reason, a threat of speaking up, it's like, you know, you get into this, but it's not a harmful situation, but your body is responding like alert, alert, alert,
This
you know,
do or die moment right here.
it's a do or die moment. And that's why the nervous system health, that's why you have to listen to Dr. Bergman, because it's so absolutely true how emotional health impacts your immune system. It impacts your nervous system, all of it. And I remember hearing that one time, and I have to try to see if I can find the original source, but I remember hearing that your immune system, your emotional health impacts is part of your immune system, not impacts. It is your immune system. Like it's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And how can you calculate that? That's why the immune system is something that there's the experts aren't really experts. They don't know everything about
unquantifiable. We don't even know what it looks like.
How can you explain it? It's just it's a very intricate system. And if your emotions are part of it, it's just like, wow, I don't know. That always stood out to me.
That's so true. I mean, because your body and your cells are always listening to you. You're the host of all these cells, your immune system and everything, and it's listening to you to know what to do. So if you're constantly saying threat, 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 then it's always on high alert and it's always, everything is vamped up. So this immune system is listening to you. Whatever it is, just you can just think of it as a sergeant that's listening to you and it's going around telling the body what to do. So if you're constantly sort of showing it that you're not in the safe place, then this immune system thinks it's protecting you, but then it starts firing all over the place and it's just like it's gone awry.
It's going on autopilot. It's going on
because what you taught it.
It's going on what you taught it, what's helped you in the past. And that's why you have to become self-aware, because your body it's there to protect you. So you don't even realize you're responding in this way. You know, it's just happening. That's why I don't want to say it's all just about habits, but there's a lot of things that you can do to kind of ground yourself, right? Start grounding yourself so you can start almost creating new behaviors. You have to create new behaviors if you want to change the thought pattern, the mood, the perception. Has to start with behavior. And I think I just saw that Andrew Huberman shared on a clip about that a lot of people think that you have to start by thinking your way out of something, right? When in reality, it's the opposite. It's behavior first, and then thoughts change, perception changes, mood changes. And I was like so blown by that, because I feel like even with my emotional health, like I personally on my health journey felt like I couldn't rely on my emotional health. My emotional health was not, it was not favoring what I needed. It was only favoring what I was comfortable in. Well, you're comfortable, you always feel good when you eat, when you eat this, or, but you feel you don't want to feel too uncomfortable when you're outside, how that person makes you feel and da, 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 da. But right. Like my emotional defense mechanism are constantly like cuddling me to stay in this comfort zone. And I felt like my feelings were the last thing I can rely on. I had to be almost militant, because it was just trying to keep me safe and comfortable. But what was keeping me safe and comfortable was also making me sick. So I couldn't rely on it.
It wasn't a healthy relationship.
It wasn't a healthy relationship. So nope. Were there days I didn't feel like getting up and working out? Yes. Did I listen to it? No. Were there days where I didn't want to, when I wanted to comfort eat instead of eat a nutritious meal? Yeah. But I said no. I had to be very militant with it. And then I noticed that my thought changed. My perception changed. The way that I saw food, my relationship with food changed, because food is an addiction. So addiction is very, very real.
Oh, yeah.
It's like your body is literally responding and craving for stuff. So I know
Yeah.
we're kind of going off topic here,
No,
but
very
yeah, it's just,
topic. Because if you're giving
yeah.
yourself that dopamine hit, but in an unhealthy way, really, then you're going to carry on doing those habits because it's a feel good. If you're somebody who doesn't maybe feel good and you feel sad and you have a lot of like emotional issues, you're looking for that hit to make you feel good. And that's when you can go into different things that can be so destructive for you. That's why people do, sex, drugs, alcohol, whatever gives them that dopamine. It can be an unhealthy way of coping.
Oh yeah.
If you're aware of it, and then you like you said, change your behavior and you're not looking for that quick dopamine hit. You're looking for behavioral patterns that are going to serve you in the long run, right? It's just not that quick fix, because if you stay in that, you become comfortable in that. You know that. You know you're going to get that hit if you do this. Whereas
Oh yeah.
your behavior is tough. That's not easy.
Yeah.
That's not easy at all.
It is not. That's why I think my health journey was so successful, was because it was based on behavior and not feelings. And then because I just gave my body what it needed, regardless how I felt that day, what mood I was in. That's why that's why what I recommend are very like simple, mundane daily lifestyle habits, because it's those things that are going to support you. It's what your body needs to function. And it's the basics. If you're not giving your body the basics, it doesn't matter how much money you're spending on your health protocols, supplements, on programs, on whatever, it is not going to work, period. And so that's why I always speak these very gentle lifestyle habits, because they build the foundation to health. But but emotional stressors are very, very real, and they will impact you and impact your health journey. And that's why we're here talking about it, so you can be aware of it. Because if you let it get the best of you, the emotional stressors can continue to attack your nervous system and your immune health, your autoimmunity. You can be taking your supplements, you can have sleep, you can have, exercise daily. But if your emotional health is like a free for all, it's going to impact it, because your body doesn't know the difference between chemical, emotional, and physical stress. Is responding to all three exactly the same.
Stress.
So let's say you're gluten-free, or let's say you're non-toxic, but your emotional life is chaotic. Your body is responding to that stress the same way it would be responding to a Diet Coke, or like birth control, or like things that are just messing with your hormones or with your diet, your nutrients. Emotional stress is still impacting you that same way of those other things. It's just a different layer, a different form, So that's why when you were mentioning earlier, just to start your journey, if you want to start on emotional stressors, or like tackling the emotional aspect of your health journey, you're going to see improvement, because your body it doesn't know the difference between physical, chemical, and emotional. So
what helps me, because I really get engulfed in my emotions, as much as I'm very aware and I'm good at trying to do the right thing, even if I'm immersed in my emotions. What helps me is having a contingency plan. So if I'm going to go in that state for whatever reason, let's say my husband, like earlier today, he said something that it wasn't even that bad of a thing, but I felt myself getting really sensitive, because I am a word person, so I took it like the wrong way, and I felt myself like spiraling over this really small, tiny, nonsensical thing. And I thought, oh my gosh, Maron, you're actually going to ruin your entire day over this. It's nonsense. So why? But I'm so good at being in my emotion and feeling it, staying in it. So what I do now is disrupt. Like, what is my disrupt? Get in a cold shower, because when I go in a cold shower, I am in a good survival mode, because you're in fight or flight, but just like a short period of time, and your body restarting. It's like a shock to the system, and it disrupts my thought patterns. You see, so I figured out that whenever I start spiraling emotionally, and I like, if I feel sad, like I said, I watch sad movies. I mean, who goes into further sadness? This is not healthy. what am I doing? So if I start, okay, I allowed myself that day, fine, but that was a different special day. But if I find myself doing things, then I will disrupt it, whether it's the cold shower or let's say if you can write yourself something that you can read, like a note to yourself, where you know that these things are triggers, these emotional things are triggers, but these you have words for yourself in those moments that you could read to help you. Or if you create yourself a video, like I have a video, I actually created a video for myself where I'm saying these words of like, Meron, you got this, you've you know, you've come so far. What do I call it? It's called my video. I think it's just called video to self.
Yeah.
Extravagant. But I have that video. Do you know what? It actually helps me. And it's me telling me this, like, look how far you've grown. You've been doing so many amazing things. You got this, Meron. So I have like this video to self. So have a few things in your like toolkit that could help you when you are, because like you said, it's changing your behavior, right? Not the thought.
Oh yeah.
That's tough. Right now, your thoughts are not your friend. You haven't made them your friend. You haven't like put in the work.
You're still sorting through them.
The weeds out and stuff. Yeah. So
yes, you're pulling up the weeds. That's right.
Have a positive emergency toolkit for when you are in these states of emotional stress, and that can be the same as when you're in like eating well. Don't buy the foods that you know you're not supposed to have. Fill your house up with foods. You have no choice. So if you want something sweet, have a coconut. Like for me, they're super sweet. I love coconuts. But that's my thing. So I have a sweet tooth. I realized I've been attacking the honey, and that's not good. So now I've changed the honey tub to coconut. But I'm not buying any more honey. So yeah, do things that you can do. Work with what you can do, and put essential oils on, or whatever it is that you like to do.
Yeah. Stimulate your other senses. I think that helps kind of bring you back to your reality. You know, be aware of what you're seeing, what you're smelling, what you're touching, what you're feeling, what you're hearing. Did I say hearing? Seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, feeling. Yeah. Just kind of just ask yourself those. Okay, what do I hear right now? Okay, what am I smelling right now? What am I seeing? What am I feeling? What might touch? What can you touch that can kind of like bring you back into that moment? And then you can kind of ease into whatever emotion you're processing. But
that is so true. When I used to do CBT, I think it was over the phone, it was over a Zoom call, and I would be like immediately in emotional chaos, like blah, 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 this happened, and then my therapist would be like, "Okay, Meron, do you know what I'd like you to do? Just look around your room and focus on objects. What do you see?" I was like, "There's a cupboard, there's a window, there's a bed, there's a this," and then it brought me out of my, that crazy lane that I was on. It just stopped that traffic because I was being present and rooted in actual concrete things and not the thoughts in my head. So what you just said is so true. Yeah.
It just helps to slow things down. Because venting is good too. You know, I get it. But some of these things where you can feel it, like you're getting angry, or you feel like it's going to ruin your day, or you don't want to get out of bed, like those type of emotions where it's like it's heavy. Like it's good to try to get as present in the moment and not in the emotion, so that way you can get up, get out, do something. Because one thing I would always do is anytime that I was feeling overwhelmed, and there are plenty of times in the health journey where you're going to feel overwhelmed, I would go out and walk. If I couldn't go out and walk, I was on the treadmill, and I kid you not, I think this one time I was on the treadmill for like 2 hours, just walking. I'm just like, because these emotional defenses, these battles that you don't see, they're happening, and I really need to cope with them. Like I need to deal with them, and I need to figure out a healthy way to deal with them, because the way that I was coping with them before was very unhealthy. I was, going to food, and I was just resorting to all my emotional defense mechanisms, and it was causing me to just be in a shell. So it's very hard when you're pulling yourself out of that shell. That's why I was recognizing your voice. I recognized it. I was like, that's healing. You're pulling yourself out of your shell, and it's uncomfortable. And sometimes you have to relive these memories, and that's sad, and that creates that heaviness, but it's healing because you're out of that shell. You're pulling yourself, and you need to keep getting more out and out. And for me, I just found myself on the treadmill, walking, and I would go fast sometimes because I was going with my emotions, and or sometimes I was slowed down, or sometimes I would do a little sprint, and then I just couldn't stop. I couldn't stop until the voices, my anxiety, and all of that talk finally was settling down. And then I was like, okay, now I feel like I can go to bed. Now I feel like I can go and lay down and focus on my sleep, because I had to do that because I had insomnia. I had to tap, and I was trying to deal with sleep. But that mental like Bergman calls it mental tennis, where you're going back and forth with your thoughts. If I didn't have an outlet, I would be laying in bed playing, thought tennis, going back and forth.
No.
And that already caused a lot of sleep issues for me. So, it's important to be aware of emotionally where you're at, and also having something to help you cope through it, whether it's a therapist or me walking, whatever makes you feel good, kind of get those thoughts and process out, or the emotion. Sometimes you have to ride the emotion out,
Yeah. I think that when you have an autoimmune, you can't afford to keep doing those old habits. You have to start. That's it. Like whether after you've just heard this podcast, you want to start, and you start now, because you cannot afford to keep adding any more stresses to your body. If you want to heal, it's time to start whatever it is, whether it's emotional, physical, or chemical stresses, whatever you want to start. Do not add. Find the techniques that you need to find. I think that our previous podcast on the love languages is so useful, because that's helped me figure out what works for me. So you said getting on that treadmill for 2 hours helped you, because I remember your love language is physical. You like physical things. Whereas to me, I heard that was just torture. No, you're not going to do that. I was like, no way. So find what works for you. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I don't recommend that for anyone.
If it's your thing, though, if it's your thing and it works for you, and you're physical and you need weights, you need to go to the gym and you need to do those things, then do it. But if I do it, if you're not working with your will, which is something Priscilla says all the time that I love, work with your will, then you're probably putting yourself in a worse situation. So find the things that work for you. For me, it's some words of affirmation. Oh yeah, surround my whole wall has got words of affirmation everywhere. And like I said, I like to write, so that's my thing. Whatever it is that's your thing, do the love languages. That might help you realize what point if you don't already know, and work with it, because you have to. There is no other way. This is imperative.
You need an outlet. You need an outlet. Yeah.
Let it out.
Let it go. I love that. That is so true. Especially when you're in that moment. Even if you're writing for 2 hours instead of on a treadmill for whatever it is, let it go. However, let it, write it out, walk it out, go to the shower, wash it off, whatever it is. Like, you really have to introduce something new. It's all behavioral driven. And I actually really do think that that's something that I'm now finding myself pinpointing more in my health journey, that I'm like finding myself repeating, is behavioral. Don't just talk these changes, make a change. Like, I always think about my faith and believe as a Christian. Like, in the Bible, there's a verse that says, faith without action is dead.
Brilliant.
So you need action. Faith. You have to have action. Or people say fake it till you make it, like, not necessarily, I don't know how that would apply in the healing, but you have to apply an action. You got to keep doing something. It's not just right.
There's this funny saying that that somebody told me, where this guy was like praying to God, and he was saying, God, please, constantly praying, please, can I win the lottery? Help me to win the lottery. And after this long time, God God said to him, "Oh, my dear sir, please, please, please buy a lottery ticket." Like, what's do the action and then I'll help you. Can't it's just that's what the analogy of it is, right? So
yes,
you have to put in the action. That's so true. And then God will meet you halfway. It's a working,
for sure.
because otherwise you're not really learning and you're not growing, are you? If you just, it's not a genie. It's not like a genie.
It's not a genie.
Your body isn't a genie. You need to work with it, right? With the action.
Your body is I understand that we're spiritual, emotional beings, but we're also very physical. Our body is a machine, is a mechanism. There is a rhyme and rhythm in the way that it works. And that's why I love Bergman's information and people like Barbara O'Neill, because they speak to that. They understand the power of prayer and belief, but they also understand the body has needs. It needs water, it needs sunshine, fresh air, movement, because that's how the body was designed to function. And when you're not giving it those basic essential needs, you're going to have issues, you're going to have problems, the body's going to compensate in different ways, and that develops into adaptations, into diseases and chronic illnesses.
That is the end of this week's Thyroid Sisters Navigate Graves' Disease podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you found it useful and enjoyable. Please do follow and subscribe to our podcast so that you are the first to hear about new episodes.
And if you're enjoying them, please leave us a 5-star rating, as this will help us so much. The bigger the show gets, the bigger the awareness raised.
You can find us on social media using the handle @lovingmekindly and also the handle @healing_unapologetically. Until next time.